Miraculous revelation. Discover the divine secrets of God's plan for redemption and transformation. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, the sun rose over the land of Canaan, illuminating the tents of Jacob's family, perched upon a stretch of arid earth. Among his sons, Joseph arose with dreams swirling in his heart, vivid and bright as the embroidered coat that adorned his shoulders, a coat woven with hues that stirred both wonder and seething jealousy. Joseph, favored by his father, walked among his brethren, oblivious to the tension growing like a storm cloud in their hearts. The dreams he shared of sheaves bowing before his own, stars bending low to honor him, ignited envy within their souls. With eyes that glimmered with a mix of love and sorrow, Jacob bestowed upon him a precious coat, a token of affection that marked him as the beloved son but also served as a stark reminder of the brother's rejection. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. Driven by envy, Joseph's brothers conspired against him. They seized him, stripped him of that coat, and cast him into a pit, their hearts hardened by jealousy and guilt. As the echo of his pleas faded into the abyss, they sold Joseph into the hands of Midianite traders heading to Egypt. There, amidst the thrumming of the marketplace, Joseph found himself enslaved in Potiphar's house, the captain of the guard, where the presence of the Lord accompanied him even in darkness. Yet, betrayal awaited in the heart of Potiphar's wife. Smitten by Joseph's integrity and goodly appearance, turned love into accusation. Wrongly imprisoned, Joseph languished in chains, but the Lord remained with him. In the silence of the prison walls, Joseph's faith did not wane. He interpreted dreams with divine wisdom, awaiting the day he might again walk in the light of hope. As years unfurled, a famine swept across Canaan, compelling Jacob to send his sons to Egypt for sustenance. Little did they know, the very brother they had betrayed stood poised before Pharaoh, the master interpreter of dreams, holding the keys to life in his hands. As they entered the royal court, fear gripped their hearts, but Joseph, disguised as an Egyptian noble, bore witness to their shattered spirits. "You are spies," he accused, tracing shadows of betrayal in his own heart. Their desperate pleas revealed the depth of their remorse and their father's grief, layers of guilt that clung to them like the fabric of Joseph's lost coat. Overcome with emotion, he withdrew to weep, wrestling with the weight of forgiveness, the hopes of their shared childhood colliding with the shards of the past. As Judah spoke of redemption and their father's sorrow, Joseph teetered on the brink of revelation. Should he remain hidden or expose his true identity? The air crackled with divine tension, compelling him to ponder God's sovereign hand in the tumult of their lives. Each breath echoed the themes of faith, trial, and the passionate longing for restoration. Standing at the precipice of his destiny, Joseph prepared to unveil the truth, firmly believing in the unfathomable tapestry of God's design. As he looked down upon the faces of those who once caused him pain, the moment held its breath. "I am Joseph, your brother," he declared, sending a shockwave through time and space, as the story of redemption finally beckoned towards resolution, leaving hearts poised in awe, in the mystery of God's marvelous plan. "I am Joseph, your brother," he spoke, his voice trembling yet resolute. The weight of those words hung in the air, heavy with years of pain, betrayal, and unspoken longing. Stunned silence enveloped the room as the brothers crumpled beneath the realization of their own treachery. How could the one they had wronged have risen to such heights? As they stared at him, disbelief mingled with dread. Joseph observed their faces. Reuben, the firstborn, whose conscience had pricked him for years; Judah, the one who had spoken in defense of selling Joseph; Simeon and Levi, shadows of their former selves, filled with guilt. "Do not be distressed," Joseph continued, compassion flooding his heart, "nor angry with yourselves for selling me here, for it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you." These words, a balm to the wounded hearts of his brothers, resonated with divine truth, the plan of salvation woven through their darkest hour. For the famine had spread across the land, and in God's providence, Joseph had been appointed to prepare a way. The burdens they had carried, the hurt they had inflicted, were now being transformed into avenues for restoration and reconciliation. God has made me Lord of all Egypt, he proclaimed, his voice steady as a rock amidst the tempest of emotions swirling around them. Hurry and go up to my father, and say to him, thus says your son Joseph, God has made me Lord of all Egypt, come down to me, do not tarry. Hope kindled in the hearts of his brothers as the veil of despair was lifted. They rushed to each other, embracing the new reality before them. A brother who had once been lost was now alive, and with him, a pathway to redemption. As Joseph commanded provisions for their journey, his heart swelled with the dream that had once seemed but a fleeting fantasy. Here was the moment of divine collision, the realization that all he had endured, the trials and tribulations, the years of sorrow, had not been in vain. God had been orchestrating these events all along, shaping destiny from despair, weaving a glorious narrative from his suffering. In the stillness of the night, as the brothers began their journey back to Canaan, Joseph found himself alone. With fervent prayer, he offered thanks to the Lord, reflecting on the endless expanse of God's mercy and grace. In that sacred moment, he understood that his trials were not simply about him. The pain he had suffered would echo through generations and lead to the salvation of many, including his father and the entire household of Jacob. Meanwhile, back in Canaan, Jacob sat in mourning, unaware of the divine reunion waiting just beyond the horizon. As he looked across the plains of his homeland, a deep ache for his sons filled him. But God was at work, orchestrating a reunion that would not only restore a family but would also reveal his redemptive plan for his chosen people. As Jacob's sons returned, breathless with excitement and disbelief, they spoke of the marvels of Egypt, of the ruler who was their brother but had been lost to them. It is true, they urged him, Joseph lives. He is the governor of all the land. The old man's heart raced as waves of emotions crashed upon him, grief, hope, fear, and joy all intertwined in a symphony of divine purpose. Yet amid the rejoicing and the returning of things lost, a deeper mystery loomed. How would this story unfold? What of the promise made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? In the twilight of his sorrow, Jacob was about to encounter the faithful fulfillment of God's enduring covenant, opening a door that led not only to the survival of his family but also to the unfolding of an even greater plan, one that would echo throughout ages yet to come. The fulfillment of prophecy was on the horizon, drawing forth the tapestry of generations and the promise of deliverance, laying bare the everlasting truth of God's sovereign hand guiding his creation toward hope. As the dawn broke over the land, an anxious stillness hung in the air of Canaan. Jacob, consumed by swirling emotions, sat among his household while his sons recounted their miraculous encounter with Joseph. Memories of the past flooded his heart, yet the flicker of hope crept into the shadows of grief. In this moment, the sun illuminated the faces of his sons, now vibrant with the news that had ignited their spirits. "Bring your brother Benjamin," Joseph had insisted, "for I will not see you unless he is with you." With each word relayed, Jacob's apprehension deepened, for Benjamin was the last remaining son of his beloved Rachel. Yet, he heard the urgency in their voices, the tone marked by desperation intertwined with excitement. "Why was I deprived of you?" Jacob lamented aloud, his heart torn between fear and faith. "My son was thought to be dead, and now I must send forth another." His words rang heavy in their hearts as the silence of sorrow echoed in the chambers of his mind. Yet, Joseph's face appeared before him, a visage of grace and favor from God. "You must believe what the Lord has orchestrated," Reuben spoke, his resolve firm. "Should calamity befall us, I will bear the blame forever." After countless agonizing moments, Jacob wrestled with his thoughts before finally answering, "If I must lose my children, then let us go. Only God can determine our fate." His tone shifted, resolving toward trust. God had sustained him thus far, and by faith, he would journey into the unknown. Meanwhile, in Egypt, Joseph prepared for the return of his family with a mixture of anticipation and solemnity. He arranged a feast, anxious to provide for the needs of all. The plan, crafted by divine wisdom, began to unfold as he recalled his dreams and the prophetic visions that had once defined his life. Little did he know how intricately God's plan woven through their stories was about to converge. As twilight cast its golden hue over the Egyptian landscape, Jacob's sons arrived at the grand palace, following the orders of the governor. Awestruck by the splendor surrounding them, they felt the weight of their past drip like heavy chains upon their hearts. On entering the presence of Joseph, the reunion sparked a powerful recognition of both joy and fear. What would their brother do? Joseph, upon seeing Benjamin, felt a surge of love and compassion. He struggled to contain his emotions, retreating to his chambers to weep, seeking solace in divine connection. "Lord, you have brought me through the fire," he cried, feeling the fullness of his journey. The chains of the past break at the sight of this moment. When he returned to greet them, Joseph declared, "Do not be afraid. God has sent me ahead of you to preserve the remnant of his people." With each utterance, he revealed the heart of their brother, compassion overwhelmingly rooted in love, yet intertwined with the truth of their history. The brothers stood trembling, the weight of their sins heavy upon them, but the spirit of reconciliation began to knit their hearts anew. As the banquet unfolded in the light of shared stories and tears mingled with joy, Joseph knew that this moment was not merely about family but about a divine orchestration. The promise given to their forefather Abraham whispered through the ages, reaching a crescendo of fulfillment. What God meant for evil, he has turned into good, Joseph could now proclaim with absolute conviction, for the tapestry of their lineage and the hope of deliverance was woven into the heart of their story. But an unsettling thought lingered within Joseph's heart: what of the path that lay ahead for his people? How would they embody the covenant made with their ancestors? As the night deepened, shadows whispered of trials yet to come, leading Joseph to ponder the depth of their calling. What further trials would unveil God's grand design? Thus, a new chapter began to unfold, yet the epilogue of their ancestral promise still clung to the horizon, waiting to be entirely revealed in the fullness of time. Would they embrace the journey that God would lay before them? The holy tension of divine uncertainty hung in the air, a testament to the endless magnitude of God's sovereign plan and the hope that awaited his children. As the feast drew to a close, laughter mingling with the fragrant aroma of rich food, a weighty silence fell upon the gathering. Joseph, having feasted his eyes upon his brothers, felt the burden of unspoken truths pressing against his heart. Each moment spent together awakened the memories of betrayal, yet the promise of reconciliation sparked a divine flame of hope within him. "Brothers," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "I must impart a weighty truth. My heart will not rest until I reveal the purpose of our gathering." The faces of his brothers turned pallid, their eyes wide with fear at the mention of their past sins. Drawing a deep breath, Joseph continued, "I am Joseph, your brother before whom you stood in Egypt. God has led us through a path laden with trials so that we may find redemption." An echo of disbelief rippled among them. Judah gasped, "Is it truly you? The dreamer we sold into slavery?" The very mention of their treachery stained the air with guilt. But Joseph, with a gaze imbued with grace, answered, "Do not be distressed, nor let your hearts be troubled. God did send me before you, not for punishment, but for salvation." Tears flowed freely as Joseph took steps towards them, bridging the chasm between their past and their present. "For these 2 years the famine has been in the land, and yet, God has granted me favor to preserve life. You see, the dreams I once shared have not been in vain." In that moment, Joseph felt the pulse of his destiny resound within the chambers of his heart. The dreams foretold of grandeur anointed to prepare a future for his family. He recounted the visions of sheaves bowing down and celestial bodies prostrating themselves. These were not only about my elevation, but about God's plan for the preservation of his people. Bowing low, the brothers surrendered to a tide of grief, a lament not merely for their actions, but for the moments lost in anger and division. Joseph embraced them, his tears mingling with theirs, blending sorrow with a profound awakening. Thus, they began to grasp how love could prevail over hatred. "Come closer," he beckoned gently, the warmth in his voice enveloping them. "Tell me of my father. Is he still alive?" "Your servant, our father, is alive," they replied in unison, the weight of their words carrying the revelation of Jacob's enduring love. Joseph felt the grip of divine purpose tighten around him. Not only was he called to save his household from famine but also to rekindle the faith that had once united their family. "Go to my father, saying, Joseph lives, and he is ruler over all of Egypt. And you shall bring him down here." His command resonated with authority and compassion, embodying his role as a redeemer and restorer, an echo of the Lord's own covenantal promises. As the brothers departed with provisions and the message of hope, Joseph's heart brimmed with both joy and apprehension. Amidst the jubilance hung the shadows of what lay ahead. Would his father accept this transformation? Could they trust one another again? That night, as Joseph gazed upon the stars shimmering brightly against the Egyptian sky, he prayed, "O Lord, let thy will be accomplished through our reunion." The thoughts of burdens not yet lifted purred at the edges of his mind. Would the generations that followed recognize the hand of God in their midst, as they grappled with the scars of their journey? Thus, within this tapestry of revelation and redemption, Joseph sensed the divine hand still weaving. The chapters yet to come were fraught with uncertainties, yet the purpose remained clear. "What lies ahead is cloaked in mystery, but I know it is for good," he mused, the truths he carried whispering of a greater plan that awaited unveiling. And as the dawn approached, a new dawn not just for him but for his lineage, Joseph could not help but wonder how would the fulfillment of God's promises shape their future. The sands of destiny shifted beneath him, a promise awaiting its time, echoing through the corridors of faith, signaling that a great work was yet to be done. The grandeur of God's plan loomed upon the horizon, the secrets of his heart preparing to unfold in ways they could not yet imagine. As the brothers traversed the arid lands towards Canaan, laden with provisions and hearts stirring with both dread and hope, a heaviness settled upon Judah. Memories of their shared childhood resurfaced, and the shadow of iniquity haunted him. "Why have we done such a thing?" Judah whispered to his brethren as they moved through the desolate terrain. "How can we return to our father with the weight of such a grave deception? The truth of Joseph still lingers like a cloud over us." Reuben, with a heavy heart, replied, "We cannot bear our father's grief again, for we have brought enough sorrow upon him. Yet, do we forsake the chance of reconciliation? God has orchestrated this moment, and we must trust in his plan." As they journeyed, fear twisted in their stomachs, reminiscent of the day they cast Joseph into the pit. Each step, once buoyed by the joy of discovery, became a reminder of their betrayal. Yet there was an anchor of hope, a message of life awaited them. Upon their arrival at home, their once familiar world felt strained and alien. They stood, eyes directed towards the entrance, the words they bore weighing heavily upon them. Jacob, their father, emerged, a venerable man, poised yet battered by time and sorrow. "Father!" They called in unison, the very name voicing both reverence and trepidation as they gathered around him. Jacob, sensing their distress, questioned them, "What has brought you back of such haste? Speak." With trembling lips and an urgency springing from their spirits, they recounted the tale. "A man in Egypt, powerful and full of wisdom, has revealed a truth to us. He is our brother, Joseph, whom we sold into slavery. He lives, and he is ruler over all the land." As the words unfolded, the color drained from Jacob's face, disbelief wrapped around him like a shroud. "Is it true?" he gasped, "My son? You speak of him as if he were alive. My heart hopes, but my soul quakes at the memories." Judah stepped forward, eager to embrace this moment. "Come, father. See the gifts that he hath sent with us, provisions for our journey and reassurance. He desires to see you, to bring our family to Egypt, to live upon this land of blessing where the famine cannot reach us." Jacob's heart trembled, recognition dawning painfully within him. "Can it be? My son, Joseph, whom I mourned as lost?" He drew in a breath, yearning yet hesitant. "But can I forsake the familiarity of this ground, my ancestors' graves, for a land of uncertainty?" Then Reuben spoke firmly, "Father, remember the covenant of our God. He has guided us, even in the dark of night and through the veil of death. Let us trust in his divine purpose. Joseph has not risen for his own glory alone, but for our preservation. Slowly, the flicker of hope ignited in Jacob's heart, a divine whisper intertwined with his fear. If Joseph lives and wishes to see me, may the Lord bring me safely to him. His voice softened, filled with newfound energy, bring my household with haste, for my soul yearns to behold my son once more. At that moment, an assurance settled in the hearts of the brothers. A divine healing was not merely intended for their father but for them all, restoring what was broken and renewing their faith in the God who had seen them through treachery to this moment of grace. The caravan soon took shape amidst the last vestiges of daylight, each belonging packed, each heart filled with a mixture of anticipation and dread. Jacob, now burdened with hope, sat quietly among his sons, reflecting on the sovereign design threaded through every trial. And as they prepared to embark, the stars above twinkled like unveiled promises, whispering of a God who leads his people forth into redemption. Would their journey illuminate the depths of their hearts? In the mystery of unfolding destiny, Jacob pondered, what more does God have in store for us, as we walk deeper into his purpose? For the sovereign plan crafted in eternity was on the brink of revelation, and the tapestry of their lives was yet to be woven with more golden threads of redemption. The path ahead, riddled with uncertainty, glimmered with the assurance of the Almighty, sowing seeds that would flourish in the hours to come, revealing ultimately the profound depths of his unwavering love. And so, the caravan set forth under the glow of the faithful stars, embarking on a journey steeped in both promise and trepidation. Jacob, his heart now alight with hope, led his sons through the lands that had known their footsteps since childhood, yet felt dense with the weight of the past. As they traversed the vast wilderness, Jacob poured forth into prayer, seeking the Lord with all his soul. O God of my father Abraham and of my father Isaac, he cried out, you who have called me by your name and remembered your covenant, guide us into your holy purpose. Reveal to us the path of salvation through my son Joseph. The night grew deep, and each man found himself in his own thoughts, burdened but comforted by the promise of reunion. Judah wrestled in his spirit, recalling the shadows of the pit and the cries of their brother now echoing within him. Would Joseph ever forgive us? He contemplated. Has my sin sealed the fate of our family? Then Nathan, the youngest of Leah's children, sensing the turmoil within Judah, spoke up, brother, do not allow fear to bind you. Our father has heard the truth, and we are called into a new beginning. Let us rejoice. For the hand of God is upon us. Their conversation shifted from despair to daring hope, and they vowed among themselves that the time of reckoning would not be without acknowledgement of their past. They were not just returning, but stepping forward into a future woven by God's sovereign hands. As dawn broke, a faint light began to seep over the horizon. They entered Egypt, its mighty towers and fortified walls rising confidently against the morning mist. The bustling markets and the diverse faces surrounding them brought forth a mingling of fear and excitement in Jacob. Here we shall meet Joseph, Jacob said, his voice thick with emotion. May the Lord temper my soul as I behold my son again. As they approached, Joseph stood at the palace gate, adorned in royal garments, bright like the sun itself. His eyes scanned the throng, and when they landed upon his brothers, something remarkable occurred. The weight of the years drawn in sorrow unraveled with the first touch of recognition. I see my brethren. He cried, his heart surging with a flood of emotions uncontained. Come forth. As they moved toward him at a distance, trembling with the gravity of the moment, Joseph fell upon them, tears blurring the colors of his robes. Oh, my brothers! He wept, what has been meant for evil, God has turned for good. You did not send me here, but God did, to preserve our family. Judah stumbled under the weight of guilt, unable to speak. Yet Joseph's presence infused him with both dread and assurance, the promise of a future intertwined with their past transgressions. In that potent moment, grace was not only extended, it enveloped the space between them. Forgive us, O Joseph, Judah implored, for the hurt we've caused, for the anguish we inflicted. Can you ever find in your heart a place for us? Joseph, with tears still glistening in his eyes, spoke freely, indeed, I flourish in the light of God's mercy. But it is not I who must forgive, it is the Lord who moves us toward redemption. Come, let us tell our Father of the mercy we have received. As they made their way into the king's chambers, Jacob's heart whispered promises of the future, and Joseph's voice rang with authority. He declared, "My father shall dwell in the land of Goshen, for in the midst of famine there lies abundance." As the day unfolded under the unwavering gaze of the sun, the family embraced their new reality, and the air thickened with a divine purpose yet to be unveiled. This reunion was only the beginning, the great tapestry of their lives still inscribed within the hands of God. And so it was, they entered into this new chapter, yet a question loomed like a shadow: what further designs does the Almighty hold for both Joseph and his kin? The covenant had only just begun its revelation, and the earth stood still and waiting, eager to unveil the mysteries of the sovereign's hand. As they entered the grand chambers of Pharaoh, the walls adorned with inscriptions of ancient wisdom and triumphs, a heavy anticipation filled the air. Jacob, weary yet invigorated by the sight of his beloved son, gazed at the splendor of Egypt, feeling both small and stirred by a greater purpose. Joseph, ever mindful of the family's history, led them with tenderness, saying, "Come, my brethren, let us convey our father's heart and the burdens we bears." He clasped their shoulders with a firm yet gentle spirit, drawing them in as if to shelter them from the whispers of fear striking at their minds. Jacob, with laboring breaths, approached Pharaoh's chamber, casting a wary glance at the golden tapestries that depicted a world of opulence and power. He could feel the stirring of generations past echoing in his heart, the legacy of Abraham and Isaac looming large. Would the Pharaoh understand our plight? He wondered, as hope mingled with trepidation. When Pharaoh beheld Jacob's face, a countenance worn with age yet lit by the love for his sons, he asked, "What brings you to the feet of the throne, Israel?" Jacob lifted his head, boldened by divine grace. "Your Majesty, I am but a sojourner in this land, my days are few and full of sorrow. My family has come from the land of Canaan, seeking sustenance from this thriving place, for a severe famine has overtaken us." Pharaoh, inspired by Joseph's account, responded, "The land of Goshen is before you. Settle there, and among you my servants shall tend to your needs." His voice was resonant, echoing authority shaped by the will of God. As the days passed in Goshen, a tapestry of unity began to weave between Jacob's family and the Egyptians. Joseph arranged for provisions, ensuring the brethren were not only sustained but lifted in spirit as well. The land seemed to flourish under the touch of God's hand, taking root in their lives anew. Yet, still lingering was the question of God's greater design for their family. Judah sought the counsel of his father one evening, his heart heavy with reflection. "Father, what do you perceive of the dreams that once troubled our brother? Could it be that they are still shrouded in shadow, waiting to be revealed?" Jacob stroked his beard thoughtfully. "The dreams speak of destiny, Judah. Perhaps Joseph's journey was never for himself alone but for us all to grow in faith, to understand God's hand in our suffering, and to know mercy deeper than our transgressions." Days turned to weeks, and the news of Israel's family grew throughout Egypt, stirring hearts both near and far. Joseph remained steadfast, diligent as he oversaw the land's abundance, yet he yearned for reconciliation not just with his brothers but with all of God's people. Then came a day of reckoning. Word reached Joseph that the famine extended beyond Egypt into the surrounding lands, and many souls, including their own, faced peril. The cries of the hungry echoed like a divine call, and Joseph's heart was grounded in the silent whisper of the Almighty, "Gather them unto me." In the hushed moments of evening prayer, he called upon the Lord, raising his hands toward heaven, "O God of my fathers! You have brought me here for such a time as this. Let the redemption of my family be the harbinger of a greater deliverance for your people." As the moon cast silver light across the land, drawing shadows long and contemplative, Joseph's resolve ignited. "Prepare, for soon we shall witness the unfolding of God's sovereign plan. For it is written, in the place of your affliction, redemption shall come forth." And as he breathed these words, a new revelation settled in the air, pregnant with the promise of transformation, awakening hope among the brethren. What would unfold next? What mysteries awaited as the seasons turned? For in the hands of the Almighty, a plan was unfolding, far grander than any could yet foresee. As morning dawned with a brilliance that illuminated the fields of Goshen, the family of Jacob stood upon the threshold of a new season. Joseph, ever vigilant, called forth his brothers, "Come, let us gather our father and prepare him for the journey ahead. The echoes of famine are calling, and we must answer, not with fear, but with faith." In the heart of Jacob, the weight of his years pressed down, yet within him stirred the belief of divine providence. What shall we say to him when we return? How shall we convey the gravity of our circumstances? He pondered, yet a whisper of reassurance wrapped around his spirit. As they gathered, the brothers spoke amongst themselves, for unity had strengthened their resolve. Reuben's voice resonated, "We must remind him of our purpose, that beyond this affliction lies a promise, a hope for our descendants. Let the discussion be one not of despair, but of deliverance." With their father by their side, the sons ventured toward the marketplace, where the cries of the needy filled the air. Joseph, bearing the mantle of authority, wove through the crowd, offering provisions and showing mercy to those who had forgotten what abundance looked like. The hands of those he assisted guided his own heart towards compassion, awakening within him a profound sense of interconnectedness among all God's people. Then, as they returned to the chamber of Pharaoh to discuss the dire needs of the surrounding lands, a sense of gravity settled upon the moment. Pharaoh, recognizing the urgency, summoned the wise men of Egypt. "Let a decree be issued," he proclaimed, "that throughout the land, grain be stored for our brothers who come from Canaan, lest our kin perish in this famine." And so it was that provisions were made, and Pharaoh's blessings flowed abundantly into the hands of Joseph, who orchestrated the gathering of grain, ensuring no mouth went hungry. The divine hand moved through Pharaoh, filling the cup of mercy to overflowing, for he did not merely see the Israelites as strangers, but as beloved brothers. One evening, as shadows lengthened and the sun dipped low on the horizon, Jacob sat with his sons and sought guidance from the Lord. "What is thy will, O God of our fathers? Why dost thou lead us into this wilderness of hunger?" His voice echoed in the stillness, longing for a response. In that sacred moment, laughter erupted from the younger children, whose innocence brought a warmth to the gathering. "Father, let us abide in trust," said Benjamin, his eyes gleaming. "For Joseph is a man of God. He has been placed here for a purpose. Surely, the Lord's protection surrounds us even now." Jacob looked upon his son and felt a flicker of hope reignite in his heart. "Yes, my beloved Benjamin," he replied with a renewed spirit, "may our hearts be steadfast, for we are a people called forth by the Almighty. Let us gather and prepare." As they began to engage in joyful preparation, little did they know that the very act of their faith was a precursor to a far greater revelation. For across the waters, the winds were stirring, and a new chapter awaited, one not solely for the preservation of their lineage, but a gathering that would echo through ages, a deliverance that would birth a nation. Thus, amid their trials, an unsuspecting truth lay veiled within God's sovereign orchestration, "For I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians, and I will deliver you out of their bondage." The seeds of a promise began to take root. This was only the beginning. And as the family embraced in faith, a tremor of destiny shivered through the land, the promise of generations yet unborn, waiting to fulfill the prophecies spoken long ago. What further mysteries flight upon this current of divine destiny? What greater display of God's sovereignty shall be revealed as they step into the unfolding plan of salvation? As the sun set upon the fields of Goshen, casting a golden hue over the land, Jacob and his sons prepared for their journey into Egypt. Their hearts beat with a mixture of trepidation and hope, for they knew that the fate of their family rested upon the wisdom of Joseph and upon the promise of God. "Let us not forget the words of our forefathers," Jacob implored his sons. "The Lord spoke to Abraham, saying, 'To your descendants I will give this land.' We carry that promise within us." The weight of their legacy filled the air with both urgency and purpose. The brothers, having gathered supplies and provisions, began their exodus toward the land of Egypt. As they walked, they spoke little, each man deep in thought. It was Benjamin, the youngest, who broke the silence. "Will Joseph remember us?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Reuben placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. He is our brother, and he recognized us in our despair. Be assured, Benjamin, he will not forget. In the heart of Egypt, Joseph awaited the arrival of his family, his spirit restless with the knowledge of what lay ahead. Having gained respect and authority, he ruled not only in a palace but also in the hearts of those he served. He gazed out at the horizon, believing that the time was coming when he would see his father and brothers again. Meanwhile, word spread swiftly through the city. The famine had gripped much of the land, and many sought refuge in Egypt, drawn by hope of salvation. The people gathered before Pharaoh's house, hungry and desperate. It was in this clamor that God's purpose began to unfold, for the cries of the suffering served as a backdrop for the divine narrative. On a day when the sun hung high, the family of Jacob entered into the court of Pharaoh. Their minds fluttered with uncertainty, but amid those fears, they bore blessings of grain from the very land that had nearly consumed their hopes. With trembling hands, they approached Joseph, who stood adorned in garments gleaming like the sun itself. As their eyes met across the chamber, recognition sparked like lightning. An unspoken bond, forged through trials and reconciliation, tethered their hearts together. Joseph's soul yearned for his father as he stepped forward, embracing his brothers. "You are come," he proclaimed, tears glistening in his eyes. "God has brought you forth in your time of need." But Jacob, hearing that his son was alive, was yet to learn the great tapestry that God wove through their suffering. "Is it really you, my son?" he cried, his voice cracking with disbelief. "Do not toy with my heart, for the last 20 years have weighed heavy upon my spirit." Joseph, ever patient and understanding, unfolded the tale of his trials in Egypt, how the Lord had used those very adversities to elevate him to a position of authority to save many lives during this great famine. "God sent me before you to preserve a posterity for you in the earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance," he explained, his voice firm yet tender. As revelations poured from Joseph's lips, so too did assurance flow into Jacob's heart. Slowly, the fabric of a larger narrative began to stitch itself into his understanding. God was not merely saving them from famine, but establishing destiny, a pathway from the depths of despair to the heights of promise, leading to a nation founded in faith. Yet unbeknownst to them, beyond the rippling waters of the Nile, a prophesied enslavement awaited, and even in the shadows, the Lord's hand was guiding them toward the birth pains of a destiny that would echo through generations. "Fear not, for God has not abandoned us in our lowest moment," Joseph reassured his family. "This is but the beginning." Thus, as they gathered at the banks of the Nile, a new chapter unfurled before them, whispering of hope yet unfulfilled, of a journey yet to unfold and a liberation yet to come. What greater wonders awaited them through trials yet unseen? What sovereign plan of redemption lingered just beyond the horizon? And so it was that the sun set upon the horizon, draping the land of Egypt in a warm glow, as Joseph gathered his family close. The heart of the reunion pulsed with the promise of a brighter dawn, a dawn where all he had endured transformed into a powerful testimony of God's unfathomable grace. An air of expectancy filled the chamber. Jacob's sons, once marred by guilt and betrayal, stood now as vessels of hope. "We are here, Father," Joseph proclaimed, his voice carrying the weight of destiny. "Let us not dwell on our past, but celebrate the miracles God has wrought among us. For you are not just here to escape famine, but to fulfill the purposes of the Almighty." With every word, Joseph offered threads of grace, stitching together the wounds once inflicted. Jacob stood amidst his sons, his heart swelling with a painful mixture of love and relief. "My son, truly the hand of God has been with you," he uttered, feeling the deep embrace of providential love. "How can we ever repay such mercy? You, who suffered so, have indeed become a savior to us all." Yet the journey of redemption held more than mere provisions. It extended into the very essence of their identities as a family, intertwined in the sovereign plan of the Lord. Joseph led them further into the depths of God's will. He urged, "We must prepare to dwell in the land of Goshen, to thrive and multiply, to flourish as a chosen people. For what the Lord has begun cannot be hindered." With hesitant hearts, Jacob's family accepted their place within this tapestry, realizing their sojourn was but a stepping stone to something grander, a calling to build a nation that would bear witness to the truth of God. Embracing this calling, they began to set about God's business beneath the starry skies of Egypt, lifting their voices in prayer, seeking guidance from the one who had brought them to this moment. As days morphed into weeks, the family prospered, yet their peace was invariably shadowed by an oncoming storm. As Pharaoh maintained his benevolence, the Egyptians marveled at Joseph and his family, yet the seed of jealousy sprang up among the powerful. "A people have come and taken root in our midst," murmured those whose hearts were hardened. "They shall not rise above us." Joseph sensed the shift. His dreams, once prophetic of abundance, were now echoing prophetic warnings of impending hardship. He turned toward his family, steady and resolute. "The Lord has spoken, my brothers," he shared, anguish etching his brow. "A time of trial awaits us, framing the crucible where our identity will be forged in faith." With heavy hearts, they stood at the precipice of uncertainty. Jacob and his sons, now stewards of the covenant recipe for a nation, rallied together. "We must remember who we are," Jacob declared, his voice booming with authority. "The promises God made to Abraham and Isaac belong to us. Let us cling to them even in the face of adversity." As years elapsed, a troubling change swept across the land. A Pharaoh arose who knew not Joseph. He clutched the scepter with an iron grip, veiled hearts overlooking the legacy of kinship that had flourished beneath his ancestors' reign. Thus began the dark days of bondage, as the taskmasters rang out with cruel demands and heavy burdens pressed upon the shoulders of the Hebrews. Yet, amidst the depths of suffering, a flicker of faith ignited. Jacob and Joseph's sons gathered in hushed circles, recounting the promises made. "Our God is a deliverer," they affirmed, threading their hearts together in the truth of their lineage. "His hand shall not falter, we are destined for greatness." And in the stillness of the night, God responded, unseen yet undeniably present. He heard the cries of his people, for the faithfulness of their forefathers reverberated in the heavens. The orchestrations of a grand deliverance awaited, echoes of a certain Lamb, yet to come, whose blood would mark the doorways of salvation. As the Israelites toiled, strengthening their resolve, Moses arose, a child of promise standing at the gateway of their freedom. Chosen by God to lead them into the metal of liberation, Moses became the prophet of awakening. Through plagues and signs, he would unveil the tenacity of God's love, reminding them of the covenant sealed through generations past. "From this bondage, I shall set you free," declared the Lord, the echo of his voice reverberating through the cosmos to settle on the hearts of his people. As Joseph gazed upon the faces of his kin, the weight of history bore down upon him. Surely this was the culmination, their suffering would yield the fruit of liberation. "The path ahead is marked by trials," he spoke into the hearts surrounding him, "but God's promises are as sure as the dawn. He will deliver us." And so it was. God's sovereign hand moved powerfully, leading the Israelites amidst plagues and wonders, for every act was an unfolding of a plan long since ordained. The children of Israel, chained though physically, would discover profound freedom within the embrace of their God. In their darkest hour, as they crouched beneath burdens unyielding, a truth emerged: their identity was secured in the God who sees, the God who hears, and the God who will always deliver. Joseph, a man of dreams, would teach them well: what was meant for evil, God has turned for good. And underneath the weight of suffering, wisdom was birthed. Strength derived from love united them in an eternal bond, delivering the promise of a nation set to rise again. Your journey too beckons. Step into the unfolding legacy of faith, trust, and triumph. Join us in recognizing God's active hand in history, for as Joseph witnessed, every trial shapes our destiny. Subscribe immediately to the channel. Do not miss the next powerful biblical stories that transform lives. Leave a like now to help spread God's word through the algorithm. Comment your spiritual reflections and how this biblical story impacted your faith. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony. The heart of God beckons forth, inviting all to be part of his redeeming work.